I remember years ago when a Swedish newspaper, I believe it was Aftonbladet, published a story that Israel was stealing Palestinian organs in order to sell them on the black market. I mean, another story that was completely false. I've used the term blood libel now a couple of times, but it does have very disturbing origins. The ancient blood libel was this canard that Jews used to kill Christian children to use their blood for religious ritual. It was entirely false, but extremely widely believed. And it bears all of the hallmarks of anti-Semitism. So when we see that ancient blood libel in its modern form in relation to the suggestion that snipers are shooting children in the head or stealing organs or targeting civilians, which is categorically not the case, that's why I use that term blood libel, because it's the only real way of describing both the falsehood, but I think also what the falsehood is designed to achieve. And unfortunately, the very dark history of anti-Semitism that exists behind it. Now, it's not just genocide. There are other legal terms that are being advanced against Israel that constitute a blood libel. Occupation, ethnic cleansing, colonialism, apartheid, and they're all being used in a very similar process for very calculated reasons.
I want to get onto some of those and debunk them because they appear to be thought-terminating cliches, which would be used in cults to say, I'm not going to think about this. Sure. I'm just going to say the word suppressive person, as a Scientologist would say, and then there's no more thinking. It's just you're bad and we don't have to think. So apartheid is a really strange one for me, growing up Jewish family, going to Israel many times and seeing an incredibly multicultural society of all different kinds of people getting on miraculously well, considering what is a complex history.
Yes.
So I think people don't understand. I believe it's something to do with the West Bank. And I mean, can you tell me, where does this even come from, the accusation of apartheid?
I think it comes from, a calculated place of understanding what the consequences of that allegation are. Because in South Africa's case, apartheid led to boycott, divestment, sanctions. You know, the BDS movement embraced this term against Israel very early on for that very reason. But of course, it couldn't be further from the truth with respect to Israel. At the Declaration of Independence in 1948, David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel, stretched out his hand to the local Arab population and said, let's build this country together. Now, many left. But a significant number of Arabs remained in what became the State of Israel, and they have been given Israeli citizenship. They are Arab citizens of Israel. They take a full part in every aspect of Israeli civic, political, the professional life. And increasingly, actually, many of them are volunteering to serve in the army. It's never been an expectation that they would. They are not part of the mandatory draft. But I'll just remark on this. One aspect of the post-7th of October world that I never really expected to see was many citizens, Arab Israeli citizens of Israel, saying, I have no other country, and realizing it took an enormous trauma to the Israeli society, to Israel's public, that the 7th of October constituted. But many Arabs that I knew before and didn't know previously have essentially said, it took the 7th of October for me to be able to feel comfortable articulating where my loyalties lie. I recognize the incredible opportunity I have to grow up as the only free Arabs in the Middle East, living in the Middle East's only democracy, and having those equal rights. Now, Israel, as a democracy, is a country founded on rule of law, has equality embedded into the constitutional framework, and it's simply false to suggest that there is any institutionalized discrimination within the State of Israel. Where the allegation has been raised is by seeking to suggest that that there is a conflation between Israel and the Palestinian-controlled territories. So after the Oslo Accords, the Palestinian Authority was created and it was given an autonomy in the West Bank. The Palestinians have self-governance. If anyone suggests to you there's an occupation or Israel's controlling them, again, that's not true. The Palestinians have self-governance in the West Bank since the Oslo Accords and the creation of areas A, B, and C. They also have self-governance in the Gaza Strip since Israel's withdrawal from there in 2005. There were initially elections, but then Hamas violently took control in 2007. It staged a coup. But Israel does not control either of those areas. Now, it would be wonderful if the Palestinians were able to vote more frequently in the West Bank. Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority president, is currently in his 19th year of his 4-year term. But the fact of the matter is they have self-governance. And what organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have sought to do is essentially to lie about the facts on the ground and to suggest that Israel is in some way responsible for all of the territory, if you will, from the river to the sea. And therefore they say, well, there is a difference between those citizens of Israel and those non-citizens of Israel that live under the Palestinian Authority who do not have rights within Israel, who do not have the right to vote, who do not have, social security benefits or residence. Now, a Greek citizen does not have the same rights in the UK as you or I as British citizens do. There is nothing problematic about that. Every country is at liberty to promote preferable situations and rights for its citizens, for people who take citizenship of that country, as opposed to those people who are not. Only in this case does there seem to be some sort of objection to it. And the irony is that this has come about principally because of the pressure on Israel to make security concessions, to give the Palestinians self-governance, and to create the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank in the first place. I'm suggesting that it's been very carefully curated and orchestrated for the purpose of calling for sanctions, boycotts, and certainly divestment from Israel. But we have seen this be embraced not just by vehemently anti-Israel NGOs like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, but also now, I think more worryingly, by international legal organizations like the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court. Based on a lot of the misinformation that these NGOs are putting out, this has been going through the courts themselves. And there are a few very brave individuals. In particular, I would highlight the Vice President of the International Court of Justice, the Ugandan judge Julia Sebutinde, who has been consistent and very clear in calling out these falsehoods, and in particular in calling out the majority of the court in a couple of cases for just, buying into these falsehoods and not challenging them in the way that they should be.